Hello and welcome to Michelin Raceway Road Atlanta for our third edition of MotoAmerica Raceline. This is where we're going to help you play to win and have a chance to be part of the MotoAmerica action when you can put a little wager maybe on your favorite rider. Joining me on the show once again is MotoAmerica fan and betting expert Ben Wilson. Ben, good morning from Atlanta. It's beautiful and sunny here.
JP, fired up to be back with you, man. It's been almost a month, but interesting facets at play and some interesting factors here. We might have a little weather for the Saturday race, and on top of that, normally this is our season opener here in Atlanta, and you kind of go in flying blind a little bit from a betting perspective when you haven't seen anybody before, but not the case this year. I'm curious. There's someone who's had a little success here, Jason, I've been told, back in the 92 to be specific. What is it about this track that might be different now that we've had a little bit of data?
Well, this place has changed a lot over the years. And when you look back at what Road Atlanta is, it's a fast racetrack. It's a track that a lot of the riders really favor. It's a fun place to come. Like you say, we're here a month later than we normally are, but in this area of the world, you know how those thunderstorms, they can pop up at any time. So I think that they're expecting a little bit of weather maybe for Saturday, which will impact our odds and stuff here for our first round, tomorrow.
That is going to have a big impact on at least one of the races, odds-wise. We'll talk about that in a second. But let's start with the Superbike. Basically, every week we'll have updated futures odds. Futures odds are to win the championship. For today, we've got all three classes to talk about, the Superbike, Supersport, and King of the Baggers. Let's start with the actual race odds. These are the wins. Race 1, though, reset after the first race for race 2. And for the Superbike race, you have Cam Beaubier a first and a second at Barber. Last race, he's minus 101. Jake Gagne, I'm curious on your take on Gagne this week, JP. He's plus 375. Those odds have come down a little bit. He was about 4.5 to 1 last week, but really ran well at Barber. I mean, a second, and you think about what he did in those first couple of races, his first win in the race 2, first win since Atlanta in 2024. So what do you make of this change?
Well, I think Jake Gagne proved to the world at Barber that his arm pump issue that he had at least visibly been gone at that first round of the year. Coming into Atlanta, this is a place, Ben, where riders complain about arm pump probably more than anywhere that we go. So the fact that he's plus 375 and those odds have come down maybe shows a little bit of faith in the fact that Jake's gotten a little bit better. Beaubier last year was very fast here. These guys split wins when they came here last year, but as you look at the 32 coming down the hill here into turn 10, it's good to see his odds have changed. This guy is past Superbike champion, so really it's just about him being healthy. When you look at some of those other odds, I think Bobby Fong getting on pole here last year, a very surprise pole position for him, as well as STK second on the grid last year. Those two guys are somebody to look at. And again, it's kind of like the Josh Herrin disrespect there in third. Our Superbike champion currently is at, plus 500 and something, I believe.
And his odds have drifted once again. You look at Herrin sitting plus 518 on the odds board there. He was under 5 to 1 last week. He's somebody futures wise, I would still be fine. He has dipped a little bit on the futures books as well, out to near 6 to 1 to win the overall championship. Yeah, you look at some of the guys a little bit further down the board though. This will lead us right into some of our head-to-head matchups to talk about. But yeah, you're talking about Bobby Fong. It's 10 to 1. And look, it's a guy who took second and fifth at Barber, and those were in very different conditions. You had the first race in the dry, then to race through the wet in those conditions. I'm always impressed, JP, guys who can handle, in a single weekend, multiple elements at play. And Fong is also plus money against Josh Herrin in a matchup this week. The Yamahas, what do you make of how that specific bike will set up when we're talking about how this Atlanta track should play out?
When we talk about top speeds, we know that the BMW and the Ducati are very strong. There's been some allowances, obviously, I think, for the Suzuki. And the Yamaha is known as a roll speed type of bike. Like, this is a place where you can get that bike and you can let it roll. And I think that was indicative of what we saw last year with Gagne winning, Fong on pole, that kind of thing. Now, to your point again about Bobby Fong, really the only reason he finished where he did in the second race at Barber was because of his visor fogging up in the wet. He's got significantly better in the rain. So you look at him here at 10 to 1. Bobby Fong is hungry. And so far this year, he's proven in the dry to be a touch quicker than Jake. So Bobby Fong, riding that factory Yamaha for his first year on that bike, I think he's had a strong showing so far.
We were on Bobby in the Barber race. We'll go back to the well, JP. I like Fong once again as the guy you can take a little sprinkle on there. Good value sitting at around 10-1. Take a look at some of these head-to-heads as well. We usually get a couple of them every week. Cam Beaubier in one matchup, he's a big favorite, minus 211 against Jake Gagne at plus 155. And then we mentioned the other one with Bobby Fong. He's plus 115, who is his first time this season in the factory Yamaha. But as you mentioned, JP, he only struggles with the vision he had in that wet race number 2. Josh Herrin on the other side is minus 153.
Well, I'm gonna take a little bit of what I've learned from you, Ben. And when you look at these head-to-heads, I don't think that I would really lay anything on this Beaubier-Fong thing here, because I think I'd rather take a rider to win than try to do the odds, and that's something that I learned from you a couple times this year. I think that the value on Cameron to win is what it is, but I like some of the other values of a few of the other riders. The probabilities between what happens between these two guys, it's just too fine for me. Now, on the other side of it, when you look at the Herrin versus Bobby Fong, Herrin has significantly and historically been a little bit weaker at the beginning of the year, in the sense that you look at Barber. He was super happy to get on the podium in the wet at Barber. That's a track that they don't go very well at, and he will self-tell you that as far as Barber goes. Here in Atlanta, I think the Ducati will be stronger. This is a very interesting matchup, and again, I don't know if I would play either side of it too much. Herrin can come on at any moment on that Ducati, we know that. But Josh, where he gets really strong is the tracks towards the end of the year. When we get to Road America and when we go to some of the other tracks, Mid-Ohio and things, that's where Herrin's really, really going to shine. And he just kind of warms up as the year goes, where I think Bobby's ready to go right now.
I agree with you on that. That may or may not be making my card to wrap up the show in a few minutes. Let's transition, though, to Supersport. And what's interesting to me most notably is at the top of the odds, because we had Matthew Skoltz, who comes out, was the favorite last week, takes first, and then third, even though crashing in the wet race.
Yep.
This is your defending champion in Supersport. Well, he's not the favorite this week. That goes to the man who swept both races in Atlanta last year, PJ Jacobsen, at plus 137. I understand there's great history here for Jacobsen, JP, but that one caught my attention a little bit. I'm kind of surprised to see Skoltz outside 2-1 here for a second race weekend in Supersport.
All right, so Ben, let's look at this Supersport head-to-heads. We got Corey Alexander at minus 150, Cam Peterson at plus 113. Now, the last time we saw Cam Peterson, he was rolling around on the ground, jumping up, holding his wrist. I believe he had a dislocated thumb or one of his fingers. He's actually 100%, I think, as he comes here into Road Atlanta. What is your take on this head-to-head initially?
It's fascinating because you have a guy in Alexander who also had some struggles not finishing in the points in the wet race as well. I do like, though, the fact Alexander has really good pedigree here in Atlanta, a fourth and a second last year, slightly ahead in the odds board of Peterson. That's why you see him shaded at minus 150. So that's definitely the way I would likely play it, and especially when you're talking about anybody with injury concern here. JP, we've tended to see that could be an issue in some of these races. So that was my first thought as far as that head-to-head goes on that one.
Yeah, and I don't think that you're far off on that. Corey's had a lot of experience here and won in Stock 1000 as well. When we go to this one, this is a tough one here too. It's hard to believe that Matthew Skoltz could be an underdog anywhere. He's plus 107, PJ minus 141. You know, again, this isn't a disrespect about riders. This is about numbers. And when you've got the defending champion coming in here, he was quickest this morning, I believe, right off the bat. Matthew Skoltz, even money. I don't think that that's ever going to hurt a better as far as like looking at those kind of things. This R9's already proven to be winning worldwide, and I don't think anything's really going to slow Matt down other than what you saw him do by making a small mistake in the rain there in Barber. He's going to be right at the front of that, as is the number 15 of PJ Jacobsen.
I'm totally with you. And I definitely feel like if you like Skoltz in the matchup, you're better off also just taking him to win the race. You're getting over 2-1 payout on that. Feel pretty good. If he's beating Jacobsen in a head-to-head, he's also going to go ahead and win that race. That's a look at Supersport, JP. Let's go on to our King of the Baggers. We'll talk futures here for a moment because we have not seen King of the Baggers since the actual first race of the season, which was in Daytona. But what's interesting now is Troy Herfoss, who won both races in Atlanta last year. He is your favorite, even though Kyle Wyman was the guy who won both races at Daytona. So an interesting flip of the odds board here, JP. Do you feel like that's justified?
I do. Look, these guys right now, they're even money to me. Like when it's a coin flip. Last year we had a weather race here, Ben, where it had rained earlier. The track was drying. Troy Herfoss was one of the few riders that put slicks on while everybody else was on wets. He made the right tire choice and smoked them. He had come off a bad Daytona. My thing is, Troy Herfoss, with all the years of experience he has, winning Superbike championships in Australia and such, he knows all these racetracks now. He knows what to expect coming in here. Indian has put a much bigger emphasis on the baggers. They've got rid of their hooligans program. Now they've got 3 very top-end riders, and I think it'd be a tough bet to bet against Troy Herfoss in any kind of scenario that you draw up.
You have Herfoss, Wyman. Those are clearly your top 2 in the king of the baggers. Rocco Landry's a little bit further down, plus 858. He is certainly a rising star. His odds were 22 to 1 going into Daytona, but it drastically shortened. Hayden Gillum right in that same range, sitting at plus 887. That's an interesting matchup for me specifically, JP. You know, look, Rocco had a couple wins late in the season, coming off a pretty nice weekend at Daytona, and now you have him pretty much evenly matched against Gillum, who really struggled. If we go back to Daytona, you think about some of the races there. He did not place in the first race and then took a 6th in the second race at Daytona. So I kind of like where Landers is at with his consistency.
I think that this is a line where just pick your favorite rider. If there's somebody that if you love Rocco or you love Hayden, then you just sprinkle a little something on either one of them. I don't think that there's an advantage to either one of these. Both these guys are racing a second class here in Atlanta. Let's not forget that Hayden Gillum is also representing Honda here in Superbike. And then now you've got Rocco running stock 1000 for that Vance & Hines team on a Suzuki. So both riders are going to be doing double duty this weekend. They're both going to be getting a lot of track time. So that's a difficult one for me too. Coin flip in that one. When we look at this one, Kyle Wyman is plus money against Troy Herfoss. Now this line to me makes a little bit of sense, but again, it goes right back to why wouldn't you just bet on somebody to win the race in Troy Herfoss and get that plus money with the hopes, because you got to think that these are going to be the 2 guys at the front anyways.
That is 100% would be my strategy on how to play the head-to-head.
I'm learning, Ben.
Don't play that on the top guys. I know, JP. I'm with you. Well, as we take a look here, some of my best bets to close the show. One guy we did not mention. This has to just be in the best bet, and I don't know why he is so long. But in the Supersport, Josh Hayes, you're going to have to, this is not a misprint, JP. Josh Hayes is 158 to 1 to win race 1 in Supersport. May I remind you, this might be a race that is contested in some wet conditions. And, oh yeah, what happened last time we saw wet conditions? Josh Hayes, the 50-year-old, 4-time Superbike champion, went out and won the race. I can't believe, even though I don't know the sport as well as you do, JP, I can't believe Hayes would be longer than 15 to 1, let alone 158 to 1. That to me is crazy.
Is he riding with an arm behind his back? Is there something that we don't know? That's the question, because this guy's got more wins than anybody. I believe 89 wins here in America, the winningest rider we've ever had. There's no scenario that you could draw me in any class where Josh Hayes is plus 15,000 or whatever. So yeah, I agree with you on this. This is kind of a thing where I go, are the books trying to suck people into making a bet? I see Josh as probably a 5 to 7 to 1 guy, not 158. So yeah, that's an interesting one.
Well, what I'll mention too is normally when you see a guy win as an underdog, his odds get drastically cut, not the other way around. All right, as we wrap up the show, let's talk about some futures odds here for King of the Baggers. The very interesting takeaway from this, JP, is these odds did not change at all going in after Daytona. Even though Kyle Wyman won both races, he's still plus 178.
Yep.
Usually just based on principle, you would see that number come down and he would be less of a plus money number and more of a favorite to win the championship.
Yeah, that's an interesting one as well. And maybe, Daytona isn't really indicative of our championship. It's such a special place. It's such a different place. Now we're going to get to more of these tracks that are a little bit more traditional, so maybe that's why they've just kept the lines kind of the same. But I think that they've got this right in the sense that you've got those front 2 guys. There's going to be guys, I think, stepping in throughout the course of the year that are going to give them trouble. The one guy we don't have on this screen to me, which is just crazy, is we don't have Loris Baz on this screen. I don't see Cam Peterson on this screen. So there's some guys with even longer odds that you would definitely think about putting a little something on as the year goes.
And you think about where Loris Baz was at, I mean, was 35 to 1 in Daytona, even longer on the futures odds, but you feel like he will be in the mix in a lot of these King of the Baggers races. As a reminder, you can go to nxtbets.com/playma and check your jurisdiction and where your odds are posted. Sometimes, depending on the book, those will always change. But JP, as we wrap up, should be just an awesome weekend, especially if we get a little weather for the first round of races on Saturday. Reminder, these odds we talked about, those are just for the first race. So things can always change going into race 2, and we love that as bettors because that creates a lot of value for us.
Absolutely. You can see what happens tomorrow. That will change the odds for Sunday. I think that you're right. We were supposed to have some weather here this morning. It hasn't happened. It's a beautiful day, but tomorrow could be different. They're going to probably qualify in the dry, obviously, this afternoon, and then they'll have a small session in the morning, but we don't know if that's going to be wet or dry. So today's going to be very key for the competitors.
Should be an awesome weekend at Road Atlanta. This has been the Atlanta edition of the MotoAmerica Race Line for Jason Pridmore. I'm Ben Wilson. We'll see you next time from Road America in Wisconsin.